Отже, добрий вечір, шановні учасники. Раді вітати вас вже на другому вебінарі з серії Empowering ESL Learners. Мене звуть Аліна Коршунова, я старша викладачка та методистка в школі Green Country English School та тренерка TalkEn.Cloud Academy. І сьогодні ми будемо говорити з вами про soft skills. Отже, раді вітати вас. Наша зустріч буде проходити у форматі вебінару, до речі, тому я дуже з радістю буду читати усі ваші коментарі в чаті. Тому, будь ласка, залишайте всі ваші коментарі, питання, відповіді в чаті. Ми будемо говорити, знову ж таки, про soft skills у викладанні та вивченні англійської мови, але перед тим дозвольте мені трошки розказати про платформу TalkEn.Cloud, за підтримки якої, до речі, відбувається наш вебінар сьогоднішній. Отже, TalkEn.Cloud – це насправді декілька речей одночасно. Перш за все, це бібліотека інтерактивних підручників, це система менеджменту навчального процесу LMS, та це Академія розвитку мовних шкіл. Система LMS TalkEn.Cloud дозволяє, перш за все, вам створювати профілі учнів для індивідуальних занять або створювати групи, прикріплювати вступні тести для визначення рівня, для того, щоб потім формувати групи або підбирати курс. Також це органайзер розкладу роботи викладача та електронний журнал, через які ви зможете, перш за все, відслідковувати прогрес ваших учнів, відслідковувати виконання домашніх завдань, виконання завдань у підручнику та надавати свій відгук учням. Але так само TalkEn.Cloud – це ще величезна бібліотека інтерактивних цифрових підручників для усіх рівнів, від Pre-A1 до C1, як для дорослих, так і для дітей. Але що головніше, мабуть, для нас, для викладачів, це не лише підручники для студентів та викладачів, але це ще ціла бібліотека, величезна Teacher's Guide, яка включає в себе деталізовані плани до усіх занять, до кожного підручника, до усіх рівнів. Так само це тести з автоматизованою перевіркою, що знову ж таки дуже важливо для нас, викладачів, я так розумію, окремо від coursebooks, від підручників для усіх рівнів. TalkEn.Cloud має величезну бібліотеку інтерактивних воркшітів для перевірки, вивчення, поглиблення усіх systems та skills на будь-яку тематику для будь-яких рівнів, знову ж таки, як для дорослих, так і для дітей. А також платформа надає можливість вам, викладачам, створювати власні інтерактивні воркшіти для того, щоб використовувати їх потім на заняттях. Вважаю, що є дуже вдалою функцією. Ви можете робити персоналізовані воркшіти, які сподобаються точно вашим студентам, тому можемо користуватись. Також перед тим, як почати вже говорити про soft skills, дуже важливі, хочу швиденько нагадати про сертифікати, так як знаю, що завжди є питання, як отримати сертифікат за вебінар. Все насправді дуже просто. Коли ви реєструєтесь на вебінар, на будь-який вебінар з нашої серії Empowering ESL Learners, ви отримаєте лист підтвердження на власну скриньку, і там вже знаходяться реквізити для оплати сертифікату. Один сертифікат коштує 100 гривень, тобто якщо ви хочете, ви можете його проплатити, відправити скрин квитанції нам у відповідь і чекати на тест. Тест надходить на вашу скриньку протягом 24 годин після вебінару, тобто не одразу, як ми завершимо наш вебінар, потрібно трошки почекати, але протягом 24 годин ви отримаєте тест, який потрібно пройти для того, щоб підтвердити, що ви добре засвоїли матеріал, про який ми з вами говоримо на вебінарі. Якщо ви складаєте тест на 80% та більше, автоматично отримуєте сертифікат на вашу скриньку. І тут дуже гарна новина для вас, те, що цей тест можна перепроходити використовувати скільки спроб, скільки ви хочете. Тобто головне назбирати 80% правильних відповідей та більше і отримайте сертифікат. Якщо ви раптом цього не зробили при реєстрації, не хвилюйтесь. Протягом, знову ж таки, 24 годин після вебінару усім учасникам, які сьогодні приєднались на наш вебінар, які були зареєстровані, усім учасникам надійде follow-up email зі статтею. Вона буде включати в себе підсумок нашого вебінару, а так само вона буде включати в себе повторне нагадування про можливість отримання сертифікату з усіма реквізитами, з усіма інструкціями. Тобто ви маєте ще шанс оплатити сертифікат і отримати його за наш вебінар. Так, поки ми з вами говорили про організаційні питання, то я бачу, що вже до нас приєдналося більше людей. Бачу, що в чаті ви активно приєднуєтесь, дуже рада бачити вас. Усім hello. А зараз дозвольте мені перейти на англійську мову, так як мова проведення вебінару англійською мовою, because we're going to talk about soft skills in learning and teaching English. And as usual, as we are since waiting for some participants to join, let's start with a very brief warm-up. Yes, and I would ask you to think on your own what, why, and how. Answer these three questions. Yes, what exactly do we mean when we say that we teach soft skills? What comes to your mind? What soft skills exactly come to your mind? Yeah, why do we need to teach soft skills? Because we usually teachers teach grammar or vocabulary. Why do we need to teach soft skills? Why do we need to think about that? Yeah, and how is it possible? I'm sure we know how to teach a grammar lesson, how to teach a vocabulary lesson, how to work with a listening task. But when it comes to teaching soft skills, how is it possible? How can we do that in classrooms? Please share your ideas in the chat. Yeah. And let's see what we already know about this topic. Yeah. So let me give you a few seconds, not a few seconds, let me give you 1 minute, yes, to think what exactly do we mean by teaching soft skills? Why do we need to do that? And how is it possible to do in our classrooms? Okay, let me wait for a few answers. So to be honest, like a few years ago when I was thinking, yes, about teaching soft skills, it became a popular topic, you know, among us teachers, and I was trying to think, okay, what do they mean? The first thing that came to my mind was, okay, communication. Communication is a very essential soft skill. So what are the soft skills? Do you know? Yes, and why do you think they are important for our learners, for our students? And when I was thinking, how is it possible? Yes, so what exactly do they mean by teaching communication? Yes, and then I started, you know, surfing the internet, and I found out that communication is not only about teaching speaking skills, how to speak. It's not about teaching students how to speak English, but how to communicate with other people. Yes, so it's much more in terms of soft skills. Okay, you can see answers of other participants, so you can scroll up and down, yes, and while you're texting, while you're typing your answers, yeah, I see your answers. While you're typing your answers, I will start, yes, telling you and answering these three questions. So basically today we will answer these three questions. What exactly do we mean by teaching soft skills? What soft skills can we teach? Yes, why do we need to do that? How it can help our learners? And how is it possible to do it? So I will share a few activities that can help your students to boost their communication or confidence or some other soft skills. And we will talk about some teaching, let me say, tricks. Yes, some very tiny teaching tricks that we can use in order, again, to help our students develop not only their language-related skills, but their soft skills. Oh, I see so many answers. So you can scroll up and down, yes, to see ideas from all the participants. So before we start talking about different soft skills, let's define the term soft skill. What is that? Yeah, and in order to do that, I'd like to compare soft and hard skills. Probably you've heard about such terms, yes, hard skills and soft skills. So when we come to our class, yes, so what do we teach? We surely teach some language. Yes, that's something that we surely do. That's something that we surely know. Yes, so we teach our students some grammar, vocabulary, functional language. We might teach some a little bit of phonology, yes, and we help our students to develop some language-related skills like speaking and writing, productive skills, and listening and reading, some receptive skills. So we all know that, and we do teach that in our lessons, yes, because that's actually the basis of any lesson, yeah. But when we talk about language learning and language teaching, let's say that these are more about hard skills. So these are some technical knowledge that first of all students can gain through some education, through some like specific training, like our lessons, our teaching, and moreover we can assess how well they do, yes, either in systems, in grammar, vocabulary, or in skills. So we can easily give them, you know, a task, and to check how well they can speak, how well they can write. So let's say that in terms of learning and teaching English, that would be our hard skills. But on the contrary, we have some soft skills. And soft skills, that is something very difficult to assess. Yes, it's all about some personal habits and traits. It's about behavior of our learners. It's how well they can work on their own and how well they can work with others. Yeah, so probably if you start, if you want to serve the internet and to find a universally accepted, definition of soft skills, probably you would not find, because there is a huge variety. So I would try to show you just a few of them. Yeah, I have only 3 of them. Yes, and out of this we will make a conclusion. So soft skills, again, are character traits, attitudes, and behaviors that determine one's strengths as a leader, facilitator, mediator, and negotiator. So from this definition, we can say, again, that's how well students work on their own. Yes, it's about their traits, their attitudes, their traits and behavior, and how well they interact with others, so like through their attitudes to others, through their behavior. Yes. The next definition says that there are 4 groups of soft skills: interaction, self-management, communication, and organization. Again, we see that's more or less about, our own traits and our attitude interaction with others. Yeah. And definition number 3, probably you can find that again on the internet. It says communication, leadership, organization, self-motivation, and creativity are important soft skills. Yeah. So again, if we look, it all talks about traits, behaviors, attitudes. Yes, about some personal things. Yeah. But if we look at all these 3 definitions, probably you would notice that we can categorize all soft skills, yes, into intrapersonal and interpersonal. Yeah, so when we talk about intrapersonal, that means something that is inside the person. It's all about self-awareness, self-management, self-motivation. So, for example, in regards to language learning and language teaching, let's say that self-awareness, that the strengths and weaknesses, that's how well the student is aware of his or own strengths and weaknesses in a language. Yeah. When we talk about self-management, that's again about how well a student can manage the learning process and his or her progress. And self-motivation, again, surely it's all about his or her motivation to learn a language. So it's all about what is inside the person, inside our learner. But we have also interpersonal skills that happens between people or groups. Yeah, like again, if we're talking about an English classroom, that would be the interaction between the classmates, between your learners. Yes, if you teach a group, that will be all about being an effective communicator. Yes, effective communication. That will be about teamwork and collaboration. That will be surely about leadership, because when we have collaboration and teamwork, there is usually students can show their leadership skills. Yes, and this is a soft skill. That is not a language related skill. And of course, it might be an empathy towards others. Yes, towards peers, classmates, even the teacher. So let's say that there is a huge variety of soft skills, and they all can be divided into intrapersonal, inside the person, and interpersonal, that happens between people or groups. But probably if you want to search more information, feel free to do. There is so much information about soft skills, and sometimes you may come across terms like core skills or 21st century skills. So they're all about soft skills. These are just different terms. Yeah, and something that I really liked, when I was preparing for this webinar, that's when they talk about 4 C's of the 21st century learning. This is like the most essential, soft skills, and they all start with the letter C. That is collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity. And when you think about language learning and language teaching, probably it makes sense, yes, because especially these 4 soft skills are so important for effective learning, effective language learning. So we will discuss these 4 soft skills among others, yes. And better understand, yes, I would like to define and talk about each of the soft skills. Of course, you would say there are much more soft skills, and I would agree with you. There is a huge like range of soft skills that a person can develop in themselves, yes. But if we talk about language learning and language teaching, yes, I've chosen something that some soft skills that are really important and that we teachers can help actually develop in our students. So what soft skills we are going to talk about today? I will define what each of these soft skill means, yes, and I will show you some examples of activities that can help you develop these soft skills in your students. And we will then sum up what types of tasks and activities we can in general do, yes? So when it comes to language learning and language teaching, probably you would agree with me that the most important soft skill here is communication. Because as Nastya, yes, our previous trainer mentioned at her webinar, that language is a tool of communication, yeah. But here I'm not talking about speaking English, yes. That's not about that. Communication, it's a much broader term, yeah, and we will look at it. Of course, when people communicate, they need to have very good soft skills. They need to collaborate and work together, either in a group or in a pair or in a team, yeah? So, and we usually do that in our lesson. So we will talk a little bit about teamwork and leadership, because when we ask our students to work in a team or in a group, it's even possible to give them opportunities to show and develop their leadership skills. We rarely do that in our classrooms, but it's possible to help our students test if they have these soft skills of leadership, yeah? So we will take a look at that. And usually when we put our students into a group or in a team, we usually give them some tasks, yes? We ask them to solve some problems, to make some decisions, to come to some conclusions, yes? And we usually ask them to do that and use either their creative thinking, creativity, or critical thinking. So we will take a look what's the difference between them, yeah? Because usually we might confuse them, yeah. We might confuse what creativity is and what critical thinking is. If you have any ideas, if you want to share your ideas, how you see the difference between creativity and critical thinking, please do in the chat, yes. It will be really interesting to see as many ideas as possible, because we here don't have much time to share everything. And usually when we give a task, yes, again, and students need to use either their creativity or critical thinking in order to solve a problem. So problem solving is another soft skill that is very essential, yes, and we will see later why. And in order to solve a problem, a person, a learner needs to use either creativity or critical thinking, yes. So they are all connected. But that's not all. Of course, it's possible to help our students develop time management. I know that some students struggle with time management. Not even students, I think we teachers struggle with time management quite a lot. So it's quite a difficult thing, yes, to manage time properly. Yeah, but we can help our learners to develop their time management, and we will see what exactly it includes. It's not only about tracking time, it's much, much more. And of course, I guess we should emphasize the importance of lifelong learning for our students, because of course they learn something when they are in class, but after the class, when the course is over, they will learn maybe a different language, or they will continue learning English or another foreign language, yes. So we teachers have a great opportunity to teach them how to learn a language on their own, yeah. So we can show them how they can be responsible for their own learning, and we can teach them how to learn something new, a new language without a teacher, yes. So, and that is also possible to develop in our students while we do some simple activities in classes. Okay, I see your answers about creativity and critical thinking. Oh, and you're completely correct. So please read your ideas. Yeah, we will collect all of them. And of course, again, there are much more soft skills that are important and that students can develop in our classrooms with our help, with the help of the teacher. But we will not talk about them in detail, yes, but just keep in mind that you can help your students to develop their flexibility and adaptability, yes, just maybe by regrouping them or changing tasks or whatever. Surely you could make them more cultural aware, especially if you teach students from different countries, yes. So cultural awareness, it's something that any student would need in their life, yeah. So we can do that with the help, again, with our classes, and of course stress management. If you have enough time, if you have ideas how to do that and develop these soft skills in our lessons, please do. And now let's go to these top soft skills that we have just discussed with you, and let's look at each of these soft skills in detail. So we have communication, and as I have already mentioned, it's not about only teaching our students how to speak English. Surely we do that, but communication is the ability to express oneself effectively and listen actively to a different person. It's not only about speaking, but the ability to listen and to hear another person. Yes, so we can help our students to learn how to speak verbally. Surely we do that in our lessons, but we can also enrich their communication with some paraverbal things like tone, pitch, volume, speed. We can teach them how to use non-verbal communication. Yes, so we may prompt and ask them to use body language, gestures in order to express themselves more effectively. Yes, so if your students are not good at that, feel free to do that, because this is also a means of communication. Yes, so you can teach them to use body language whenever they prove their point, whenever they present something. Yes, so give your students, highlight the importance of that. They will need that. So oral communication, that's easy. Yes, that's when students talk to different classmates in order to acquire some information, to discuss some topics from the conversational cards. I guess we all do that. But what happens if we talk about written communication? Actually, nowadays, I would say that in my everyday life, I think that I mostly communicate in a written way. So I usually don't speak to my colleagues, to my students, out of the class, but I usually type and text them on messengers. So it's all about written communication. So whenever you have a writing lesson or you teach writing, think about written communication. Communication happens when your students do not only write an email to a friend, but when they receive and respond to each other. So whenever you have a writing lesson and you have enough time, ask your students to swap their emails and respond to each other. Only when they get the response, only in that way communication happens. So teach them that it's possible to communicate in a written way. So teach them, show them what written communication is. And of course, public speaking. Probably students would not need that in their everyday life, but maybe in the future, one of them will have to speak in front of other people, yes, and they would probably need very good public speaking skills, yes, in order to speak, to give a presentation or whatever. So you can give your students opportunities in your class to try and test, and develop this public speaking whenever they present a project or their ideas. Let them speak in front of other classmates, and in this way let them gain some confidence, yes, because one day they will have to present something in English and they will not be confident they will not be confident enough because they have never tried that before. So give this opportunity to your students in your lessons. Let them develop these public speaking skills. Let me show you some examples, of activities. For example, we have activity number 2. What did you do last week? Did you and your partner do the same things? Yes, work in pairs and discuss. So it's a very nice activity, and I think that you do similar activities quite often with your students, but there is a tiny follow-up task, When the students are ready with the first part of the task, they are asked to write what things they both did. Yes, again, in order to sum up and write what the student and their partner did during the weekend, they have to listen actively to each other. Yes, and when we give the task in the way that asks our students to listen actively, to each other, we help them develop these very essential communication skills. So whenever you do such task, ask them then to summarize, and write what they both did or what they both liked, or it can even be just a question from you. Do you have anything in common? Of course, you could emphasize this instruction before the task. You should remind your students, be ready to report back, ask to listen to each other attentively, because I will ask you, So again, communication happens not only when we express something, yes, not only when we say something, but when we listen to someone and when we hear what they are talking about, yeah? So it's just an example of an activity that you can use. Or, for example, public speaking. Yes, I have mentioned that it's possible to give your students like a chance to try themselves as a public speaker, yes, to present something to the public, like in front of their classmates. So whenever they need to create, like to think about something, to plan something, ask them to present that to their classmates and receive feedback from their classmates. And in this way, of course, they might be shy for the first time, I guess. They might not feel confident for the first time, but with time, they will gain confidence and they will develop their public speaking skills. So if any questions, please leave them in the chat, or let me know if you do something to help your students develop not only speaking, yes, but communication skills. But let's move next. Again, as I mentioned before, when we ask our students, when we want to develop their communication skills, we ask them to work at least in pairs or in groups or in teams. And here it comes, and here it's all about teamwork and leadership. So what's the difference and how can we help our students to develop their teamwork and leadership? So if we talk about teamwork, surely we all understand that it's the ability to interact with one another. But the key point here is that students actually work together when they need to achieve a common goal. So if they don't need to achieve like a common goal, probably they will not be that motivated to work together, to listen to each other, yes, to participate actively. Yes, but when we set the task that the students need to find out the solution, they need to, to gain some outcome, specific outcome of the task, probably in that case, they will work together. Some ideas for you. For example, something that I really like, that's gap fill activities. Yes, when you put your students into pairs and one student has one piece of information and another student has a different piece of information. Yes, and students need to talk to each other, negotiate, listen to each other attentively in order to complete a common picture. For example, this activity, we have one part of the map, another part of the map. They need to talk together, they need to work together in order to complete the whole map. Or, for example, pair crosswords. Yes, that's when one student has one half of answers, another student has another half of answers, and they really need to talk to each other in order to complete the crossword. Surely you can give the crossword to each student separately and they would work on their own and they will do the crossword, but you may put them into pairs and one student will have clues to one part, another student will have clues to another part, and they will just have to talk to each other in order to complete the whole crossword. Yes. Just think about that and use that. Or I have a question here, running dictation. Do we still remember this activity? I'm sure that some of you are still working at the offices. How often do you use running dictations? It's just a wonderful activity for, for boosting students' teamwork. Even for very, very young learners. Last time I did it with very, very young learners, and I enjoyed their teamwork, to be honest. So running dictation, it's all about working as a team, because if they don't work as a team, they will not complete the task. Yeah. So running dictation is a good example to show how students need to communicate together, how they need to work together in order to give the final list of sentences or words. Yes, they need to talk to each other, they need to respect each other, they need to change roles, write fast. Yes, so that is a very good activity, again, to boost students' teamwork, because they have a common goal. As a team, they need to complete the list of sentences or the list of words or whatever, and they need to listen to each other actively, because on their own, probably they will not be able to do the task. Okay, but that's all about teamwork. Yeah, and we usually do these activities. Yes, probably, maybe we do not think that much about like teamwork when we do such activities, but we do them. What about leadership? When we talk about leadership, it means that we need to give our students opportunities, yes, to lead something. and they need to test whether they have these leadership skills, and they need to develop them somehow. So our task as teachers is to give them opportunities. So they need to train themselves as a facilitator of a group. They need to like try to manage a group. They need to try to manage time management for the task or whatever. So I will give you an example. Yeah. So we have, for example, this task which says work in small groups, make up a list of 5 things about something. Yeah. It doesn't matter. So again, you can just put your students into groups and let them work as a team. Yes, and like in 5 or 10 minutes as a team, they need to give you the list of 5 things about something. But you can do it in a different way. You can assign your students different roles, and one of the roles would be a leader. So you can assign somebody to be a leader of a group who will be responsible for the final list. Yes, who will decide which thing is more important and which thing should be written here. The leader will prompt others to speak. Yes, the leader will facilitate ideas, will maybe ask other members to brainstorm ideas or whatever. So he or she will be responsible for the final result. Yeah, so he or she will have an opportunity to lead the team, to lead the activity. Yes, and in this way develop leadership skills. Again, we can do this activity just putting students into teams and let them work as a team, but so from time to time we can assign different roles. Yeah, and in this way we can give opportunities to think about leadership skills. Okay, let's move next. So as I have mentioned before, when we put our students into a team or in a group, we usually give them a task to do together. And in order to solve a problem, to make a decision about something, or to find a solution, students need to use either their creative thinking, creativity, or their critical thinking. So let's take a look what creativity is and what critical thinking is. I see some answers in the chat and they're completely correct. So let me talk about that. So creativity, it's not only about using imagination. You know, when we ask our students to imagine something, like to create a new house, or you know, this activity to draw a monster that we use for young learners very often. Draw a monster with as many eyes as you want, with as many hands as you want. When we teach body parts, yes, we usually ask them to draw either a monster or whatever. Yes, and in this way we ask our students to use the imagination, I would say. Yes, so they use their imagination, they create something, they draw something new, and then they tell their classmates about this picture. So but creativity is much more than just imagination, using imagination. It's also about originality. Yes, for example, it's all about generating ideas. So when you ask your students to generate some new ideas, do not think about some existing ideas, existing solutions, but come up with something new. And very often it's not about some regular solutions or regular decisions, but it's all about some innovative things. Yeah. So the definition here says is the ability to generate original and innovative ideas. Yes, to think outside the box, to find new solutions to existing problems. The best activity, I think, that describes the best activity that helps our students to develop their creativity, it's brainstorming. We do use that in class very often. I think that you all give me any reaction if you use that in your classes. But I think whenever we need to write or create something or speak about something, before you give the task to your students, you ask your students to brainstorm ideas. Yes, and brainstorming is the best way to create their creativity, because they need to come up with as many ideas as they can. Yes, and the more innovative ideas are, the better. Yes, and we usually praise our students for some innovative and new ideas here. So use brainstorming. If you see that your students lack creativity, so they find it difficult, to create something, brainstorm all together as a group, if you're working as a group. Yeah, or there might be some more complex exercises, let me say so, like more creative tasks. For example, this activity. Yes, students have some existing objects. Yeah, I believe you also, at least once in life, you've done such activity before. Yeah, such an activity before. So they have some existing objects in different categories, and they need to create a new game and think about the rules for this game. So they need to think creatively how they can combine, for example, what do we have here? Scissors and a ball, and create a new game, yeah? So it's all about their creativity. It will help them to develop that creativity. Probably that would not be relevant to real life, probably that would not be like very practical, yes, in terms of real life, but that would be fun, and that would be the best way to help your students create, to help students develop their creativity. So, but brainstorming is the easiest and is the best way. These are just some examples, yes? But the key point here for us is to remember that creativity is all about generating new ideas. When we talk about critical thinking, it's something different. It's about analyzing, evaluating, comparing, organizing, categorizing existing ideas. That's when we give our students some ideas and they need to analyze them, whether they are good or best, decide which idea is the best, yes? When they need to summarize or rank something. Though they don't need to create new ideas, but they need to analyze, they need to think critically about something and give some like decisions to you. For example, you can first brainstorm ideas on the board, yes? You can write all the ideas about something on the board, and then you can give your students to develop their critical thinking. You can say, guys, now rank our ideas from the best to the worst, or something, yes? The first part, brainstorming, would develop their creativity. The second part of the task, when you ask them to rank the ideas from the best to the worst, would help them create develop critical thinking, yes? So critical thinking, again, it's all about analyzing, evaluating, and making some reasoned decisions. A few activities, a few examples for you to maybe understand it better. The best example would be choose a topic and talk about its pros and cons. We don't ask our students to think about new ideas, yes, about new ideas to be like I don't know, to be like eco-friendly or whatever, but we ask our students to think about advantages and disadvantages of some existing ideas. It's all about critical thinking, it's not about creativity. Or for example, look at the list of professions and rank them from the best to the worst for a first teenage job. We don't ask them to think about like ideas for a good teenage job. No, we ask them to analyze some existing ideas. Or, for example, read the facts about food and decide which are true. They do not generate new ideas. They just analyze something that you give to them. So basically, that's the difference between creativity and critical thinking. And I've given you an example how we can do that in class, yeah? If you think that your students, I think more often students lack creativity, but you might correct me. Yeah, write about your students. Do they lack critical thinking or creativity? Do they struggle more? Yeah. So, and what would you like to focus on more in your lessons? Because as with my learners, I found that it's very difficult for them to generate new ideas. But when I give them a set of ideas, they easily analyze, rank, they prove me that this is best, this is the worst. So critical thinking is just wonderful. But when I ask them to come up with a few new ideas, I see that they need more time and they need to think more. Okay. So again, as I mentioned before, when we ask our students to think, to use critical thinking or creativity, yes, we usually ask them to solve some problems. And actually, problem solving is another wonderful soft skill that our students would need in their real life. Yeah. So problem solving, what is that? So actually, that is the ability to identify, define problems, like evaluate possible solutions and choose the best solution or the most effective solutions. Again, students either need to use their critical thinking or creativity. It depends on the way you give them the task. Yeah, on the way you it depends on your aim, whether you want to work to help them develop their creativity or their critical thinking. It depends on you in the way you give the task. Yeah. For example, that's just a very straightforward example, I would say. Yes. Choose the problem and explain how to solve it. So very straightforward. We have problems and we need to solve them. So first, students can brainstorm possible solutions. Yeah, so you can put them into pairs, they would create their solutions. Then at the feedback stage, you would collect those solutions, You would group students and put them back into pairs and evaluate, analyze the solutions that they have suggested, yes, and they would like evaluate and analyze, and then finally they would choose one which is the best of the best. Yeah, so in order to do this task, to develop them, to help them develop problem solving skills, you can teach them how they can use their critical thinking and creativity. I'm sure they would need that in their real lives. Yeah. But that's a very straightforward example. There might be some more activities, yes. So these all soft skills are very they're closely connected with each other, as you see, yes. So we can do one activity, then focus on it, focus on one soft skill, then we can extend instructions a little bit and help students work on a different soft skill. Yeah, so we can connect them all and, I don't know, develop like a range of soft skills by using just one activity in class. Yeah, I believe that's true, but there is something more, yeah, that we can help our students to develop. And for example, time management. So we usually, when I think about time management, I usually think it's only about tracking time. For example, I have 1 hour for this webinar, so I need to check my time sometimes to see whether I'll manage to finish it on time or not. But time management includes more things. So time management is also about planning. Yeah, so whether students can plan something, whether they can prioritize something. I think very often even we, like teachers, and if we talk about young learners or teenagers, and we say that they cannot prioritize, we adults as well, and teachers, we sometimes, struggle when it comes to prioritizing tasks or whatever. Yeah, it's all about delegation, actually, and we can help students develop and at least test this soft skill in our lessons, yes. And of course, it's about time tracking. So how we can do that? For example, I found this example in the book and I found it really interesting. So students just have to work in pairs and answer some questions. I hope you can see on my screen, yeah, there are 4 questions. Look through them. And probably you would notice that question number 1 is quite complex. So what can you find in these places? And we have like a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places. Yeah. So probably it would take a lot of time for students, yes, but we want our students to discuss other 3 questions as well. And in order, like we usually set timer, yes, we usually give our students some time limits to discuss questions. And if they not track time and they would discuss and don't pay attention to time, probably they would stop and discuss only question number 1, to be honest, yes. So we can teach our students how they can track time, yes, how they can decide when it's time to move to the next question, for example, by using a timer. Yes, if you teach online, that's super easy. You can just use timer on Zoom. If you teach at the office, you're welcome to use a projector or a TV or a laptop with a timer so that the students can track time, and we can teach them how to do that. Yeah. That's a wonderful example, because if you don't pay attention to the time, yes, students would probably stop here discussing question number 1. And then you as the teacher would have to extend time limits, spend more time on that task, yeah. But it's also possible to do that task on time just by reminding your students to track time, yes, that they have in pairs. Or this wonderful activity, again, that was the time I used it with young learners some years ago, but I thought, oh my God, it's because they cannot prioritize. Yeah, probably adult learners, they can prioritize, and when they see the task such that, like that, they would probably prioritize and start with writing. But if we talk about young learners or teenagers and they receive a task like that, draw something and then write a description, I'm 100% sure that they would spend all time drawing, coloring, and improving their pictures. And then in the end, they would not write anything. Yeah. So here we need to draw our students' attention to the task which is more important. Yes, to help them decide and prioritize something. So we can do that just with the help of the question. Guys, what do you think? Is it more important? Is it better to start with writing and then draw? Or you can start drawing, just spend 1 minute and then move to the writing part, yeah? So by this with the help of this tiny question, you can show your students that they need to prioritize, yes? And if you ask that question, usually, okay, I will write and then I will draw, yes, as much as I have time for. Yeah, so teach them how to prioritize. But I think the most important thing here is about teaching our students how to cope with time management is when you teach students who need to sit an exam. Yeah. Probably whenever they have to do like an international exam or any type of task, and they have a writing task, they probably need to track their time, because usually they give not more than 30 minutes or 45 minutes for the whole writing task. And students need to know how to plan, yes, how much time they need to spend on planning, how much time they need to spend on writing, on proofreading, on revising. Yes, so we can teach our students that they need to control their time whenever they write something for an exam. So it's very important for students who need to sit an exam. Okay. And last but not least, I would say that something that I've mentioned before, that we need to emphasize the importance of lifelong learning. Surely, again, students will learn something throughout their life, yes, and especially if you work with young learners or teenagers, that's the task of a teacher, to teach them how to learn on their own and how to be responsible. And of course, responsibility, again, it's such a broad term. They can be responsible for anything in their life, but here let's talk about responsibility for their own learning, yes? So how can we make them think about this responsibility? So responsibility is all about self-discipline. I guess you would agree here with me. It's about being self-motivated. At Green Country and TalkEn.Cloud, it's just wonderful solution for all our teachers, but probably you will like this idea and you will do something like that. So at Green Country and TalkEn.Cloud, all lessons are designed according to the flipped classroom approach, and that means that students need to do some self-study and prepare something before the lesson, so the lesson is effective, productive, and successful. So students share responsibility, yes, for a class to be successful. Yes, so they have some responsibility. If they do their self-study and they come to class prepared, the class is more effective, it's more productive, it's more successful. Yeah. If they don't do their self-study, the teacher needs to explain something more. Students don't have so much time to talk to each other. Yes, to develop their speaking skills. Yes. So we teach our students how to be responsible for their own learning. So they know exactly that before lesson 2 they need to do self-study number 2 in order to come to the class prepared. Or for example, for the next lesson, they need to do self-study 3 or whatever, because they know if they are ready, the class will be successful. If they're not ready, the teacher will have to explain. It's not bad, yes, it's not bad, but they understand this responsibility, they feel this responsibility for their own learning from the very, very early age. So you can do the same with the homework. Yes, or you can give your students a little self-study task before lesson. So you can say something, guys, next time we're going to talk about something and something. Please look through the words before the lesson and come to the class with the questions already. Yes, so they will maybe realize their responsibility. Okay, I need to come to the lesson with some questions already to ask my teacher. Yes. So think about that, and if you have such an opportunity, use that. And if you're working at a state school and you spend much more time with your students, at the school or like maybe online, I'm not sure, give them some other responsibilities. Yes, I don't know, for tasks, I don't know, for classroom management, like in terms of classroom management, regarding anything that you can think about. Yeah, so teach them how to be responsible for their own learning. And of course, ability to learn, I would say that it comes last in my presentation, but it's something that is really important. So lifelong learning, it's all about the ability to acquire new language, knowledge and skills throughout the life. So we can help our students, we can teach our students how they can learn something new, let's say a language, another language, or they can learn the same language after the course or whatever without the teacher on their own. So how we can do that? We can teach them how to use different resources, how to think critically, how to self-evaluate own weaknesses and strengths, and how to work on them. Very simple examples. For example, very simple, yes, that's when you give your students a writing task, yes, and you want your students to see and to be aware of their own weaknesses in writing, in grammar, in vocabulary, whatever. Let them check themselves, yes. You can give them a checklist, yes, and you can ask them to check their own writing. So, and they will know how to do that on their own, where there is no teacher, yes. They will know that whenever they write something, they can create a checklist and check themselves according to these points. Okay, I need to check grammar, I need to come back to the course book and check whether my structure is okay, the structure of my email is okay. So they will know how to do that, yes. Again, it's not something language related, it's about soft skills, but we can teach them how to do that. We can at least introduce such opportunity to them. Or, for example, you can ask them to use some resources, to do some research, yes, and to come to the lesson with a brief summary about something. So probably when they do some kind of research, yes, probably they would use the internet, different online resources, books. So they will know how to do that. They will know how to to search different resources and summarize the information from there, yes, without the teacher. And of course, I think we neglect that a little bit, but show me any reactions if you still teach your students how to use different dictionaries. Any reaction? Unfortunately, I cannot see. I think I'm not sure if I can see reactions, but if you teach your students how to use dictionaries, show me any reactions. Because actually we can't teach our students how to use dictionaries, because again, when there is no teacher, yes, around them, when they are learning something on their own, like a new language, they need to find out the word, and they cannot ask a teacher to explain. They need to know how to use dictionaries, what types of dictionaries exist, how to find the proper collocation, how to find the correct meaning of the word, because in English there are so many meanings. So students need to know how to use these online dictionaries, yes, and how to find the correct meaning, the correct collocation, the correct form, or whatever. So I think these are just a few examples, yes. Think about other examples. What other things your students would need in order to be able to learn on their own when there is no teacher around them? Okay. So we've discussed some soft skills, yes, but the question is when and how, you would probably ask me, yes? So we've looked at, I see that a lot of you are using dictionaries, that's wonderful. So we've looked at some activities, yes, but these are just some specific examples. So when do we teach soft skills? Surely we can teach them during classroom activities, and again, we saw a lot of examples how we can do that. We can do that during feedback sessions, like when we ask our students to check themselves, yes, and to give feedback to each other, and in this way learn how to learn on their own, yes. Or we can do that out of the class when we assign different homework and when we assign self-studies to our students, yes. And probably some tips, yes, just to summarize, yes, some tips that we can use in order to help our students develop their soft skills. Yeah, you can look at my screen. Probably you can take a screenshot if you want. Yeah, I would comment on something that is really easy to implement, yes, and that would really help you to develop soft skills in any students. First of all, brainstorming, yes, and idea generation. We can do that again before writing activities, before speaking activities, before you ask your students to speak or write about something, and you know that they lack creativity, probably they will lack ideas how to write about something. It's a good idea to brainstorm all together. Yeah, and you will see that with time, students will be more eager to brainstorm something and to suggest their ideas. Yeah. Again, remember my example, you can then use the same ideas and develop their critical thinking. Yes, decide which idea is the best or categorize or rank those ideas. whenever you do some projects in class, I do believe that we do quite a lot of projects. Yes, we ask our students to create something, let them work in pairs or in groups. So they need to create something, they have a specific outcome, they have a specific goal that they need to reach together. When you put them into pairs and groups, probably they would need to work as a team. They would probably try to communicate and listen to each other actively in order to give you this final product, this final project, yes? Remember about setting the task, not the activity. Activity, it's all more about when you want your students to practice some aspect of language, right? So when you want them to practice like past simple or vocabulary, yes, they do something, but when you give it a purpose, yes, when you give a goal, when you give a purpose, it becomes a task. Yes, so talk to each other and find out what you have in common. Yes, talk to each other, it's just an activity that would help them develop their language skills. But when you say talk to each other and find out what you have in common, yes, in this way they have the purpose, the communicative purpose to talk to each other, yes? And probably they would not only try to express themselves by speaking English, probably they will have to listen to each other, yes? And take notes maybe and remember something about their partner. Yes, then when you ask them to work in groups, yes, again, teamwork, collaboration is good, but if you want to give your students opportunities to develop their leadership skills, assign these roles to them. That is the best way, yeah? Just assign somebody with the role of a leader, yes, and let them lead the process and see what happens, yeah? Surely we would not give feedback or highlight what was good or bad in terms of being a leader. Probably we would focus more on the feedback on the language, yes, on the task, but at least our students will have an opportunity to try and see whether they need to work on their leadership skills, yeah? Something that is very connected with communication, yes, about active listening, that's ask your students to report back. Yes, when they talk to each other, always ask them, what do you remember about your partner? Do you have anything in common? And in this way, you would promote this real communication. They listen to each other, not only express, not only speak. And try the same with writing. I think that we don't quite often do that, yes, because we usually lack time in our lessons and we want our students at least to write something. But plan at least once, per term, per school, academic year, to have this writing lesson when students will have an opportunity not only to write an email, yes, or it might be anything actually, but they would have an opportunity to swap their writing and give a response, yeah? Not focusing on language, no, focusing on the message of what they've written, yes? And in this way, show them that in this way, written communication happens. There is something that should be written and respond, yeah, respond. And of course, use self-assessment techniques, checklists, teach your students how they check their own weaknesses and strengths, either in writing or in any task. Yes, teach them how to check themselves and be aware of their own strengths, yes, and being responsible for their own learning and being able to learn on their own then, yes, later in their life without the teacher. Okay. And surely the question, yes, I believe that was actually the most important question, but I don't know, for some reason I decided to summarize our webinar with this question. Why do we do that? Yes, why do we teach soft skills? I would show you some statistics here, yes, and this is a statistics of most important soft skills that employers look for, yeah. So, and if you look at these statistics, let me maximize it a little bit, yes? So just take a look, I will just show you. Yeah, we have the most in demand skills, yes? Management, communication, leadership, yeah? And then here we have teamwork, communication, time management, problem solving, creativity. Surely your students, especially if you teach, again, young learners or teenagers, yes? And this slide, I really like it. Yes, what is required? Hard skills and soft skills. Surely it will be a great advantage for your students if they can speak English for their future career or their future job, yes? But probably employers also pay much attention to soft skills. And we can use this opportunity when we work with our students, when we teach some language, we can use this opportunity to help them develop their soft skills. At least we can give them opportunities to test whether they have these soft skills. Surely, like you have these words on my slide, but anyway, regardless of their career, students need to know how to be effective team players and creative problem solvers. Surely, like these interpersonal and intrapersonal soft skills will help them grow at work. Yeah, I'm sure that if you have adult learners, they will prove that. But again, if we're talking about young learners and teenagers, probably they don't understand that now, but we teachers can already start working on that. And for us, for teachers, there is also one advantage if we think about soft skills in general. When we adapt some tasks towards a specific soft skill, it may bring variety to our lessons, yes, to our classes. Like when you, when you do very little adaptation, or you adjust instructions a little bit to some tasks, and you try to focus on some soft skills, yes, probably it will make your lessons more interesting and engaging. Yes, it will bring variety for sure. And of course, students who have well-developed soft skills, they would take more and more advantage of language learning. If they are good, effective communicators, probably they will be more eager to talk to each other and practice their speaking skills. If they are good problem solver, like if they know how to solve problems, probably again it will be more interesting and engaging for them to do the tasks that you give to them. Yeah, and again, if they have this creativity, critical thinking, yeah, they will enjoy your activities, the tasks that you give to them even more. Okay. And one more important thing, just to summarize everything, as a sum up, I decided to talk about ourselves, about us teachers. So what soft skills can help you in teaching and how? I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about my soft skills. I'm sure I struggle with time management, but I was thinking that one soft skill that really helps me at my work is creativity, because I don't like, analyzing the existing tasks from the book and choosing, comparing which is the best from the book. If I have to do that, I would better create a new one. So that proves that I really have, I don't struggle with creativity, yes, and it helps me to come up with new and engaging games and activities and projects for my students. I would really love to take one more minute of your time. I would really ask you to share what soft skills do you use at your work and how it helps you. Yeah, like my example with creativity. I know that some managers from my school are listening to me, but yes, it's much better for me, to create a new activity than analyze and decide which activity is best from the book. What about you? Okay, let me give you a few minutes, yes, because you need to type. While you are doing that, let me thank you, yes, about your, let me thank you for your active participation, yes, for your answers in the chat box. It was a great pleasure. It was a huge pleasure for me to have you here today. Okay. Oh, thank you so much. Creativity, oh, of course, we're all creative. I think it's just a must for, for an English teacher to be creative nowadays with such a great range of activities, online games, and everything. Okay, thank you so much again for being here today with us. It was a huge pleasure for me to have you as participants today, and I wish you just enjoy your evening today and see you in 1 week at our third webinar. Yes, so thank you so much and goodbye.